Alright, today we're going to be working on a 2003. It's a Toyota Highlander. It's the V6. It's the 3.0 engine. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this cover here. And the way you're going to get the cover off is you're going to use an Allen key to take out these three screws in the front right here. And we're going to remove this cover. And this one here, it actually unscrews like this. And then we'll take these out and we'll pull that cover off, and we'll come right back. And we're going to remove this before I go any further. We're going to remove this bar here so we can gain access to the manifold. We're also going to remove the air filter assembly here, and we're going to, if the hoses aren't marked, make sure you mark them because they can go on to different locations. Most of them are marked. They're color coded. You can see where this one here is a yellow, and the stripe on there, which is supposed to be yellow, but it's worn away. Just mark these hoses before you remove them, and the same thing over here on the purge valve itself. Mark the hoses where it comes off. I don't think you can make a mistake. There's only one hose on there, so it's not a big deal. We're going to take this cover off, take this bar off, and then we'll come right back. We're going to remove this bar. Obviously, you can use a regular ratchet to remove it. I'm just going a little bit quicker. I'm using an air gun. I'm cheating a little bit, but you can do this by hand, of course. There are 14mm bolts on this bar. And then you can take the bar and just relocate it to the side because you're going to need to get in here. I just want to show you this piece here is up on top right here. There's a little tab on the back. You push it in and it pops right off. And you can just move that to the side. Okay, and we'll get this bar out of the way here. Same thing on this side here, there's a little tab down there, we need to remove that. You can just push it in, and you can just slide it right off. And then we can just take the bar out of our way so we can get in there. Well, next thing you want to do is you want to remove the air filter assembly just so we can get in there and we're going to remove the air filter assembly. So there's two screws down on here that hold the air intake hoses onto the manifold. Just going to unscrew the bolts. We're not going to take them out totally. We're just going to unscrew them. They're 10mm, just so you know. Unscrew them. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here on the side right here. There's a airflow sensor. You push this tab down and you just rock it back and forth and it comes right off. Same thing here, just push this little tab down. I'm going to need two hands to do that, but you basically push this tab down and you pull this sensor off. We're also going to come down to the bottom here and we're going to remove this hose right on here. We just take that clamp and slide it back and take this hose off like this. Now let's try this one more time here. Oh, here we go. Slide that out of the way like that. Then we're going to unclip all the clips that hold the air filter box on. Now remember, we talked about these hoses here. Make sure you mark them so you know where they're going back on. And take those off. Alright, and we're going to take off. I'm going to get a pair of pliers and we're going to remove this hose clamp right here so we can pull this this air filter assembly out of here. So let me grab a pair of pliers and we'll get back to you. Just take a pair of pliers and just squeeze the clamp, move it up, and then you can relocate that hose. You just twist it and pull it off at the same time. It comes right out. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to just make this filter out. We're going to take these hoses off of the intake right here, just rock them back and forth, and they'll come right off. If they don't, you can use a screwdriver to assist you. And then we'll just take this and pull it out of the one more hose here. Again, make sure you mark it so you know where it's going back. I know it seems like it's easy just to remember where these hoses go, but when you start putting it back together later on, it's going to be a little bit confusing. So mark your hoses so you know where they came off. That way you don't have any issues. Box out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the electrical harness right here. Just push this tab in. Okay, these connectors were actually a little bit hard to get off. You push these pieces down here and it just doesn't come out. So what I did is just get underneath here with a little screwdriver, just pry it up, and just don't snap them off. So all right, let me grab some more tools and we're going to continue. Okay, just want to show you what we're up to here. What we're basically doing is removing all of the cables that for the throttle and for the cruise control, removing all of the vacuum lines, mark everything so you know where it goes. And then we're going to take off the upper part of the plenum. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take out these bolts up here, take these out, and then just so you know, down in the back, all the way down over here on the engine, there's a bolt that actually is a bracket that holds the top of the plenum in place. So we're going to take that bolt out, and then we're going to remove the plenum, and then we'll come right back. Okay, now we have the bolt removed in the back over here. We're going to take all of the bolts out that hold the manifold, or I should say the top of the plenum down. I already cracked them loose. And we're going to take these out. Oh, and I might add that you need to drain the antifreeze out of the engine too, because once we get down to the next part of the lower intake, we're going to need to have this system empty. So let me get these bolts out. I'm going to take this plenum off of here, and as you can see, it's pretty loose now. So let me take the plenum off and we'll come right back. Okay, I just want to show you some of the things that you won't be able to see when you're trying to get this out. There's a bolt on this side here. There's two bolts right in the back over here that you're going to have to reach in through the top here to gain access to. One is a 10 millimeter, the other's a 15 millimeter. You're going to have one over here. It's a 12 millimeter that holds this tube onto the plenum, and you're going to have one last one right over here, right down where the throttle body is on the plenum. You're going to have to remove all of your coolant hoses, and that's about it. Now we're going to remove the lower part of the intake manifold, and what we did is we unplugged the injectors from the harness. We unplugged them over here on this side here already. Now we're going to take the bolts out of the manifold, and we're going to remove the manifold from the car. So let me get to that step, and then we'll come right back. Okay, and this is what it's going to look like once you have the lower part of the intake manifold removed from the car. And this, okay, the last thing we're going to do, just so we can get this intake gasket off the car here, is we have to remove the water intake housing right here, because the intake gasket is actually underneath part of that too. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this section of the mount right here, and we're going to unbolt the assembly. We're going to pull it up and out of there, and we'll take the gasket out there. And that's it. Let me get that off, and we'll come right back. Okay, now we have the upper connection for the hose that goes on. We took that off of there. We pulled the gaskets off. We're going to obviously we're going to be cleaning this surface here, but I just want to point out a good idea is to stick a rag inside each one of the air intakes here, just to make sure that you don't drop any debris down inside there. Then we're just going to clean off the manifold in here, and we're going to clean off the other part of the manifold, which is up here, and the water inlet. And once we get that cleaned off, I'll come right back. Okay, next thing we did is we installed our upper hose coolant attachment to the engine. We bolted it down, tightened all the bolts up. We put back on the engine front mount, and we plugged in everything that was unplugged. Next thing we did is we cleaned off the base of the gasket where the manifold is going to sit on the new gasket, and now we're just going to tighten up all of the manifold bolts, and we'll reconnect some of our vacuum hoses and plugs for the injectors. So I'll get that done, and we'll come right back. Okay, now that we have the lower part of the manifold back in, we have our injectors plugged back in, we have our coolant hose back on, radiator hose back on, the coils are plugged back in, these injectors are plugged back in, everything is pretty much set. I cleaned up where the new gasket is going to go. Always use a new gasket on here, I'm sure you know that. Now I'm going to lay the plenum in, and the upper part of the plenum, I'm just going to lay it in here right now. I'm just going to catch some bolts in there to hold it in place, and then we're going to get all these bolts caught in the back before we tighten anything up. So let's lay that plenum in there, and we'll go from there. Remember to connect all your hoses up on here before you put the whole thing back together, and you can't get underneath there. So we'll do that. Okay, now we laid our intake manifold back in, and we just put these bolts in very loosely here, and we tightened up, or we didn't tighten, we actually installed all the bolts in the back of the plenum here, and down on this side here. And now after we tightened, got these caught by hand, as you can see the plenum is still a little bit loose. Now we're going to tighten up the manifold up here, the plenum portion of it, and once we tighten this up, then we're going to go back and tighten up those bolts in the back over there. Alright, so let's tighten that up, and then we're going to come right back once we tighten it up. Okay, now that we have all the bolts tight in the back, all of the bolts that we had taken out are now tight, all of the manifold are tight, we're going to now plug in everything that's up on top here on all of these sensors. Vacuum lines are all reconnected. These vacuum lines are actually going to go back to the air breather. We're going to put that on momentarily. Our lines are connected up for the cruise control as well as the accelerator, and we just have to lay in the air breather, reconnect our vacuum lines and the mass airflow sensor, and we should be ready to fire it up. As tempting as it may be to leave these bolts out in the back because they're a pain in the rear end to get them back in there, make sure you put them back in, because it actually one of them is a ground. Not sure exactly what it grounds, but it does ground something. Make sure you put that back on. And it holds the brackets on the side over here. If you don't put them back on, you're going to wind up with a rattling noise inside the vehicle. Maybe not right now, but down the road you will. So make sure you get those bolts in and tighten everything back up. And before you put your air breather back in, just make sure all your lines are reconnected, your electrical connectors are on, and everything is back in place. All right, let's lay the air breather back in there, and we'll wrap this job up. Okay, now that we got the air breather back on, we made sure we lined everything up with as we marked it, and it came off the same way. We returned everything to where its original position. You marked them. Everything is on. We have this tight here. The air intake is now tight. We have the airflow meter reconnected, and we have the purge valve reconnected. We filled up the antifreeze to the full mark, and now if you did your job correctly, you should be able to start it up, and everything should be good. So let's head inside and crank it over. That's it. But just so you know, it does run a little bit rough. When you first start it up, you have a little bit of a stumble in it, but then it goes away after a second or two. That's it. You're all set. Everything went back together exactly as it was supposed to. And just before you let the vehicle go, just look it all over. Make sure everything is reconnected as it's supposed to be. And that's it. You're all set. Make sure you reattach your bar back up to the top here where it belongs, and bolt it down, tighten it up, and I'm not going to bore you with how to tighten it up. I'm sure you, after doing this job, you'll have no problem with that. But we're going to lay it back in here, tighten it up, reconnect our electrical connectors onto here and over there, and that's it. Alright, thanks for watching. Good luck. If I can help you with anything, just drop me a line. Be more than happy to get back to you. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.